Since you're curious about resin, stick around as we check out Eli-Chem's MasterCast 1-to-1. Hi everyone, it's Miriam with a Y for Miriam's Nature. I know that many of you are flat out terrified of resin, and I really want to start demystifying this material for you. So I'm going to periodically try out different resins to see which ones I think are best and to tell you which ones I found to be the easiest to work with. Today, we're going to examine MasterCast 1-to-1. It's made in the UK, so for those of you across the pond, you'll hopefully have easier access to this than various other things I sometimes use here. As the name suggests, MasterCast is a 1-to-1 ratio resin, meaning you mix equal parts of the resin and the hardener to get the mixed resin to start curing. The pamphlet that comes with it says that this is a non-flammable, odor-free, and has no solvent content resin. The pamphlet goes on to give you pointers about making sure your work is level, how to clear bubbles, how to use the torch, making sure you cover your work, how to clean your tools, and it has lots of information about timing, hardness, etc., for those of you that like very technical information. The pamphlet also says that this resin is non-toxic and that it conforms to ASTM's D4236 standard. And if you're not familiar with that, it's ASTM stands for American Society of Testing and Materials, but it's no longer called that. It's just called ASTM now, ASTM International, because it's in like 150 countries. And this particular standard is for art materials. And if a product says that it conforms to this standard, it means that the labeling correctly lists any health hazards that could be associated with its use. You'll see that standard on some of your paints, your glues, your inks, and lots of your resins. So the hazards that they have to list are that it causes skin irritation, may cause an allergic skin reaction, and causes serious eye irritation. Okay, that's true of any resin and most art supplies. So don't freak out by that. It's good that they put it on their packaging. It means that they care enough to tell you that and that they've met that standard. Let's have fun now. When working with resin, always wear gloves. Resin, like you saw, can be a skin irritant, and even if you don't think it's going to irritate you, it could in the long run. So it's always a good idea. And even if you don't want to do it for your health, which you should, resin is sticky, and it's just a bear to get it off your hands once it's there. Wear gloves. Just do it. If you're not in a well-ventilated area, a respirator is a good idea. And protect your eyes. The pamphlet also recommends long-sleeved clothing. I'm going to be honest, it's 80 degrees here. I'm going to forego the long-sleeve shirt part. Okay. Since this is a test, I'm going to work on this cute 6x6-inch cradled board. And I am now going to paint this white. And the reason I'm going to paint it, since this is wood, naked wood is porous, so it can easily release a ton of bubbles into your resin, and we don't want that. So I want to make sure that I seal this wood very well, and a couple of coats of undiluted acrylic paint usually does me well. All right, I have made sure that my work surface is level in both directions. I've given this canvas, this wooden canvas, 3 coats of white paint, so it's pretty decently sealed. I've also run some blue tape around the border, so as to contain the resin while I work for a while, I'll remove it right before the resin starts to really cure. I kind of like it that way. For my colors, I'm going to be using Eli-Chem's Resi Metal in Blue Steel. Eli-Chem is the company that makes MasterCast. They also make colorants for resin, and some of them are in powder form and some are in sort of this liquid form. It's sort of like the consistency of soft body paint. Look at the deep color that is. Oof. I'll be using DecoArt Media's Titanium White, their fluid acrylic, Dazzling Metallic Peacock Pearl, and their Extreme Sheen 24 karat gold. And lastly, Quinacridone Magenta and Pearlex's Duo Red Blue. I'm mixing these two. For those of you familiar with me, you know that for mixing small amounts of color and resin, I like to use these little baby Ziploc bags to do the mixing. It saves on sticks and little cups, and I have better control when I add the color to my canvas. Here is the magenta and the Pearlex in the same bag, and I'm hoping that when I mix these together that they'll give me a nice sort of pearly looking magenta. Okay, I am gloved up and ready to open this resin. So you and I are going to experience this for the first time together. I have got this one open. It hardly has any smell. Kind of reminds me of a swimming pool a little bit maybe. Sort of like that chlorine smell, but just a hint. And I'm pretty sensitive to smells because I've got pretty bad asthma. The resin is kind of thick. I don't need to mix that much. That is enough for me for this size canvas. So I'm gonna stop there. And now the hardener. Okay, the hardener has a slightly stronger smell, but also not that bad. And I have to make sure that I get it. Ooh, well, that's perfect. Because when you're mixing resin, there is no fudging. It isn't like, oh, I'm off by a couple drops. No big deal. It's a big deal. You really have to get it as exact as you can get it. So if a resin says it's one part this and one part that, you really want to do everything in your power to get as close to that as possible, because being off, you are going to mess with the chemistry of the resin and it may not cure the way it's supposed to. So be good. And now for the stirring. They recommend at least 3 minutes of stirring. So that's what I'm going to do. Because the resin is thicker, the likelihood of getting bubbles while you're mixing increases, but that's not a big deal at all. Like thinner resins don't get as many bubbles when you're mixing. Thicker resins do. It's just the nature of the beast. But don't let bubbles in your mix freak you out, because they will rise, they will pop, and when we go to torch over or use a heat gun, any bubbles that are left will go away then too. So bubbles are not a big deal, but you want to avoid rapid stirring, because rapid stirring will give you a ton of bubbles. I mean, just because bubbles are going to pop doesn't mean you should go out of your way to make them. So I thought you might want to see what it looks like bubble-wise. And what's really interesting is that now that the two parts are mixed, the smell level is lower than before. The two parts combined smell less than either part by itself, which is cool. So now it hardly smells at all. So I've got my blue steel in this bag, and I'm gonna pour some resin in here. I seal up the bag really nice and tight, and then I just mush it around. And I get to see every bit of the resin and how well it's mixed. And then finally I've added a few drops of white paint. I'm just going to pour white along the periphery. Maybe spread that a little bit. This is definitely thicker than I'm used to. All resins are different and they all have different properties. And it's kind of good to know what your different resins will do, because there are some instances when a thick resin will be just what you need, and other times when a thinner one would be better for you. I don't have a plan, so I don't really care which way it is right now. I just want to see how this behaves. What I do with my little Ziploc bags is I cut a corner off, and then I can use it like a cake decorating tool. Now this is a really pretty color. It's very rich. Another band of white, and I'm opening the magenta, which really did mix nicely. Gold on top of the magenta. How about some in the blue? I let these sit for about a minute just to see what would happen. I don't expect that much would happen with tilting now because, as I said, this is a thicker resin, but I'm sure that if I heat it, it'll move well. Yeah, there we go. Not having much of a plan. I know it looks like I have a plan, but don't think that I do, because I don't. And I still have clear, so let's do some clear. And what's fun about clear is that it almost acts like a dispersant. It pushes things out of the way. It sort of opens up windows. See how it spreads and pushes everything out of its way. Trying to get everything to hit the walls now. I really like what the windows are doing, because, like, I'm going to call these now windows, because they're really letting me look through to colors underneath. So I think I'm really going to play up that aspect. I don't want to have to tilt just to get color to the edge. So I'm going to fill in some of the corners. Add more gold on top of the clear. Let's see where that takes us. And then when I get toward the end of the bag, all I have to do is sort of run it through my fingers and I can get it to all push out. So you can't do that with a cup. I'm just pouring resin and seeing how it behaves. And if we get something pretty out of this, awesome. But that's almost not even my concern right now. My concern is to see, does this resin move the way I want it to? Once I've figured out that it's a thicker resin, I want to see, can I get it to then kind of be an obedient resin? Or does it have its own plan? Fill in this area with patches of color. I hope it's really clear that I'm just playing. Okay, so all I'm trying to create now is something with a lot of color all over the place, so that when I make those clear windows, they have something to look down into. So I want color on top of color. That's what I decided I want to try to exploit. Just going to swipe color. And the other direction. So I've got color layered on top of color, so that I can hopefully make windows that sort of peer through that. That's what I'm hoping. So I want to make little windows looking through. And now I'm trying to decide where to put these. Because when I put one, it pushes the colors aside, which I really like. and gives this amazing depth. So even though this is theoretically one layer of resin, from my vantage point, it looks like 3 or 4. Here, this white spot kind of looks sad to me. So I'm going to give it a little bit of color so that it looks a little less depressed. This color is setting up. Oh, I like that. What's happening there is because there's what I'm calling those windows, the patch of clear. When I swipe, since the resin is setting a little, it only sits on the top. It's not sinking. So it's really reinforcing that 3D look. Oh. Looky, I'm getting to make tendrils in resin. How cool is this? I'm getting my tendril on in resin. Yeah, when I'm swiping now, it's floating on top. So this swipe right now, it's actually casting a shadow underneath it, which is super cool. I'm not saying this is the prettiest work I've ever done, but it's fun. So what I'm getting out of this is seeing potential techniques for other things. And part of the reason I'm able to do this is because this resin is thicker. And it's letting me do something I've not really done before. I mean, this is literally the thickest resin I've ever worked with. These are cool. I really hope that this translates to pictures. Oh my gosh, and everything, it glistens. Like, I cannot even tell you how glisteny this is. Cool, like I can't even. And can I just say, I had a really crappy day. I got rear-ended today really badly. Like, I think they totaled my van. I won't know till tomorrow. But I'm pretty sure it's totaled. My car is just gone. And, you know, there were some tears earlier today. I was just not having a good day. So, and here, this really pretty resin is making me happy. That's a good thing. You gotta love that. You gotta love when your art can heal what ails you. Because I was having an ailful day. My day was full of ailing. I love this. I'm telling you, not having a plan is definitely the way to go when I experiment with stuff, because I learn so much. I get such fun little discoveries by kind of like I approach it almost like a kid. You know, like I got new box of crayons and there's a wall and I'm gonna draw on the wall. That's kind of how I see this. And woohoo. Okay, I really am gonna stop because it's just kind of pretty. I'm gonna let that sit for a little while longer and then I'll pull the tape off. Now I see a couple of bubbles in some spots. All the torch is doing for me now is popping any surface bubbles. I'm going to let this set up almost to the point of cure and then pull off the tape, so that hopefully what I'm hoping happens is that the corners, the edges, round, but that there isn't enough to drip down, because it won't drip down evenly now. It's too set up to do that. What I'm wishing I'd done now was tape the sides up to the top and then put blue tape on top of that to form my dam. But I didn't think about that, so I didn't do that. All right, I'm gonna brave taking off the tape and see if the resin is thick enough to stay up without running down. I am really hoping that it is. So far, it seems to be. This is the trickiest maneuver I think I've ever done. But so far, so good. And I'm trying to fold up the tape as I go so I don't have some... Okay. I have one little drip here. Darn, that was me at the end. But hopefully I can clean that up. But this, I'm hoping, sits on top and doesn't feel the need to run over the edge. All right, I'm gonna put this to bed and we'll see what we get tomorrow. It's about 20 hours later and this resin has already cured rock hard. So I have to say I'm pretty impressed by that speed. Pulling off the tape once the resin was really starting to harden worked well. I have a nice rounded edge and no lip to worry about. I had a little dripping on one edge that I was able to take care of with some sandpaper and white paint. Now, that could have been avoided if I had waited a little longer before pulling the tape off, but I'm a little impatient sometimes, so, you know, I got ahead of myself. All right. Now, because of the thickness of the resin, I think I was able to really maintain a lot of the fine details in this piece that ordinarily could lose definition or soften. As you work with resin, you're going to find that they all vary in cure time, viscosity, work time, or pot life, flexibility, resistance to temperature. So you'll start picking different resins for different projects. So I'm going to be very happy to use what I have left of this for detail work for sure. So my verdict, I like this resin. Given the shipping costs from the UK though, to the States, it's a bit much for me, but for many of you, this is going to be a great option. I would also like to recommend a channel for those of you who love resin work. The artist's name is Sharon Lindley of Vivid Days, and I'm putting her name on the screen now. Her work is gorgeous, and her eye for color and movement is exceptional. I will put a link to her channel in the description box below the video so that you can enjoy her too. You'll also find information for Eli-Chem and MasterCast 1-to-1 there, and the Resi Metal, the blue tint that I used. Let me know what you thought about everything in the comments and what else you'd like me to test. Leave me a thumbs up if you think I'm doing a good job. Remember to share this, subscribe, and click on the bell for more informative, hopefully fun-filled videos. Please continue clicking on any of my Amazon links right before you make a purchase there. That's when it counts. It's a quick, easy, free way to keep these videos coming. Tell me what you're working on this week. Thank you for watching. Go let your creative nature shine. See you next time. Bye now.